Welcome back. If you are just jumping in, you are smack dab in the middle of a three-part series all about emotional reactivity. And just to give you a little bit of context, this three-part series really is all about defining and understanding the difference between the emotionally reactive girl and the emotionally intelligent woman. If you have been hanging out with me for a little while, you might know that my brand new book, The Emotionally Intelligent Woman, is going to be released in early February. I am super excited. If you haven't signed up yet for our free launch party and exclusive masterclass, I want you to make sure that you do that. The link will be in the show notes here. I am throwing a really special launch party as well as teaching an exclusive masterclass to really help you unpack what I call the secrets of the emotionally intelligent woman. You know, who is she and how does she live, love, and lead with unwavering confidence? So I'm super excited to share that free teaching with you. It's a way for me to celebrate you, my community, and to celebrate the launch of this passion project, which is the book that I am just about to release. So I'm really, really excited about all of that. So this is part two of a three-part series. If you missed last week's episode, I want you to go back and listen to that. Today, we're going to be talking about what happens when things don't go your way. From an emotional reactivity place, what happens? How do you respond? How do you react? What happens inside of you? But more importantly, how do you then express that externally? How do you express that when you are showing up in all aspects of your life? So I want to start by just drawing a contrast between the emotionally reactive girl and the emotionally intelligent woman. So when things don't go her way, the emotionally reactive girl tends to get angry, blame others, and believe the worst. I want to just briefly unpack each of these elements. She gets angry, number one. She blames others, number two. And she believes the worst, number three. So getting angry is her emotional reaction. That's the emotion that sort of wells up inside of her. It's this anger. And that's just one example. It could be bitterness. It could be resentment. It could be frustration. Right. So she gets angry. And then in terms of how she actually engages with others is she tends to blame them. She tends to put the blame or the shame or to shirk responsibility and put it on the other person. And then finally, the third thing that she does, which is probably the most destructive thing that she can do, is she believes the worst. She believes the worst about the situation. She might believe the worst about the other person. And often this leads to believing the worst about herself. And so this is where she really begins to imprint her subconscious mind with limiting beliefs. So when things don't go her way, the emotionally reactive girl gets angry, she blames others, and she believes the worst. Versus the emotionally intelligent woman. When things don't go her way, she does things a little bit differently. Number one, she reviews her goals. She reviews her goals or her intentions or whatever it is that she's working towards, but she pauses and she reviews her goals. She then gets creative. She has trained her brain. She has trained herself to really get creative. She's used to getting creative. So when things don't go her way, when there's a challenge, when there is a monkey wrench thrown into her plans, she's used to getting creative. And finally, she looks for new opportunities. She has, again, trained herself to think this way. This is such a mindset shift, is to consistently and constantly look for opportunities when things don't go our way. What could I learn from this? What possibilities exist because things didn't go the way that I had hoped or go the way that I had planned? So let's unpack these pieces a little bit more deeply. Let's look at them a little bit more closely. Let's start with the emotionally reactive girl. When she is activated in this particular scenario, when things don't go her way, the first thing she often does is she fixates on the negative. And, let me pause and just say this as I'm going through this information. If you're not already taking notes, I would encourage you to do that. But more importantly, I'd really like you to get into a mental state of self-reflection. I want to invite you to become very self-reflective as I am going through these points. So let me move back to that. She fixates on the negative. Almost immediately, we know that we are in a state of emotional reactivity when we become fixated, like stuck on the negative. We cannot see any possibilities. We cannot see any opportunities. Our sense of creativity is lost, and we're really fixated on all that is bad, all that is wrong, and we get stuck on the negative. The second point to highlight here is the emotionally reactive girl. When she's activated in this scenario where things don't go her way, her emotions lead the way. Her emotions lead the way. If you've been hanging out with me for any length of time, you would have heard me use the term emotional mastery. It is the term that we use inside of our coaching company, the EQ Code. It is our first and foundational pillar of success that we train women on is emotional mastery. And when we don't know how to master our emotions, and when we're not acting from a place of emotional mastery, what actually happens is our emotions lead the way. Our emotions make the decisions for us. Our emotions tell us what to think. Our emotions speak for us. Our emotions also tell us how to see the world around us. Our emotions define our perspective. Our emotions lead the way. So instead of us leading the way and allowing our emotions to inform us, our emotions are at the forefront. Our emotions are at the forefront. They're in the driver's seat. They are the ones making all of the decisions. And quite often, our emotions will convince us that we are right, that we are entitled to having this reaction, that it is the other person's fault, and that, of course, we're angry and bitter and resentful and all of those things. The third point I want to highlight with the emotionally reactive girl, when she is activated in this scenario, when things are not going her way, she truly believes that everyone else is to blame. Everyone else is to blame in some way, shape, or form. If she even begins to take responsibility, it's only in the context of what that other person has done. I mean, maybe I overreacted, but it's only because she spoke to me in this way. I mean, maybe I, have totally withdrawn from that relationship, but it's only because that person is just so difficult. Right? So with the emotionally reactive girl, everyone else is to blame. There is very little, if any, responsibility taking. So now let's look at the emotionally intelligent woman. When she is activated in this scenario, when we are able to stand in her power and when we are able to embody the presence of the emotionally intelligent woman, what happens? What does this look like? What are the characteristics? What are the things we really want to strive to embody? Well, the first thing is she slows down to take stock of the situation. She actually slows down. So she recognizes that she's activated. She recognizes that her emotions are becoming bigger, for lack of a better term. She recognizes that her emotions have the propensity, the capacity, the potential to begin to take over. She recognizes that. So she slows down. It's like she's trained herself. And in fact, she has trained herself. She's trained herself to recognize, to be in tune with her emotional state and to slow down almost immediately when that happens. It's like when you're driving and, I don't know, the road gets slick or there's wet snow, or the driving conditions change, right? They change. You see that, you recognize that, and immediately what you want to do is slow down so that you can increase your capacity to respond. So she slows down and she takes stock of the situation. Okay. The second thing that the emotionally intelligent woman does is she moves into her creative brain. She activates, she consciously and intentionally moves into her creative brain. So here's the thing. Whether you are artistic or not, I have often said about myself, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. Well, that's actually not true. I'm not an art student. I'm my strength is not drawing or painting or making music or anything like that. But my brain is incredibly creative, and I bet yours is as well if you train it to be. We can train our brains to be creative. We can train our brains to solve problems with tenacity. We can train our brains to see things from different perspectives. And that's what I mean when I say that the emotionally intelligent woman moves into her creative brain. And finally, the emotionally intelligent woman knows. She knows that when one door closes, she can find another one to open. She can find another door to open. She can create another door to open. And so she is not unsettled by doors closing. In fact, she looks at the doors that close in her life as signs, as information. She looks at those closed doors and reminds herself that this is simply an opportunity. It's simply an opportunity for her to find another door to open or to create a brand new door. So, as you are listening to this episode, I'd like you to ask yourself, when things don't go your way, who are you going to be? Here's the thing that I want to leave you with today is the ability to choose, I believe, is one of our greatest gifts. And recognizing that we have the ability to choose is one of the most empowering things we can recognize and we can hold on to. So when things don't go your way, who are you going to be? If you are looking for more teaching on the emotionally intelligent woman, you are not going to want to miss the exclusive masterclass and incredible launch party that we are throwing to celebrate the launch of my brand new book, The Emotionally Intelligent Woman. All of the details are linked below. Or you can just come find me on Instagram, dr.shamalaikiru. I would love to hear from you. If you want access to that masterclass, come find me over there, send me a DM, and we will be sure to get you registered. All right, my friends, I will see you next week for the third and final part of this series, all about emotional reactivity.